I know that one of the difficult things about going through gang stalking and targeting and being harassed in an organized fashion is deciding if you should tell someone and who to tell and what to tell them. Because of the nature of these occurrences and the way that these things play out, it is very hard to describe to someone else who hasn't been sensitized to the things that you have exactly what's going on and still maintain a degree of sensibility, and the very nature of this entire situation is conducive to that. And it's done this way very much on purpose. Oftentimes, it's easy to, and anyone who's experienced this is very much, and more often in the beginning stages, apt to be very frightened and to record a lot of different things that they themselves have been sensitive to, and then try to show that to the outside world as proof. The problem with this is that when this happens, the only thing that the outside world is going to see when you show them this is a car passing, a horn honk, unless it's, it's nearly 100% of the time, it's going to be an ordinary, everyday thing. So when they see this bit of documentation that you have, it seems as though you're recording ordinary events. But to you, they are very much not ordinary, because you have been anchored to those triggers, stimuli. It could be anything, sounds, doesn't matter. But the key is that only you have been sensitized to these things. So the question comes up, who should I tell about this, and what exactly should I tell them? Well, one of the key goals of this entire program, the whole sequence of events, is partly to isolate you from everyone. So I do recommend that you tell at least one person, and make sure it's someone who you very much trust. Now, you may trust other people who you could tell, but I would, especially if you're just beginning to piece all of this together, I would recommend at least telling one person. And I would avoid trying to give examples of specific things that are sensitized only to you personally, because they will not recognize those things. And this is all part of the genius of this entire structure of events, is that you can't talk about many of these things unless the other person is sensitized to it. But since you are only, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work very well, and all that they see is something ordinary. So if you do tell someone, I would recommend that instead of trying to give examples of specific things, that you just be very matter of fact about it. You can give them information about it, maybe from sources that you find to be more reliable and trustworthy. There's information out there from John Hall, Dr. John Hall, and a lot of people have heard of him. There's Dr. Moss, David Posner, people like that, who are able to speak about this in a very matter-of-fact way, but they also recognize that not everyone is sensitized to any of the same things. So it's best, especially in the beginning, to only be very matter-of-fact and try to give sources that are not coming from your own personal things that trigger you or that have been used on you, per se. But once there's an understanding of how all of this works, you can then begin to talk a little bit more about what's actually happened to you personally. And that may help in describing this situation, because if you're going through this whole ordeal and you're trying to describe it to someone else, don't frustrate yourself and try to get them to recognize the hammering next door that's been going on nonstop for the last week every day. Don't try to describe, whatever it is specifically to you, or the running water downstairs that just will not turn off for 3 days, every hour on the hour, like Japanese water torture. Don't try to describe things like that just right off the bat. But I do recommend that you tell one person, whether it's a family member, a very trusted friend, preferably who you've known before this started, and somebody who you really do trust, and somebody who is at least willing to listen, and try to just, especially at first, before they really understand the concept, just be matter of fact about it. Yes, I'm experiencing these things. You don't have to give specific examples right off the bat, but do tell at least one person. Don't let yourself be isolated, because that is one of the primary goals of this entire thing, is for you to be completely isolated. So don't let that happen.